Hello dear students, this is lecture 3 and in this lecture we are going to do revision, solve some questions and study a new topic, structure of a cell. So let's begin. Okay, so we know that cell theory was contributed by 3 scientists, Sheldon, Swan and Virchow, and they gave different statements. So what did Sheldon said? He said that all plants are made up of cells. Okay, then Swan said that all plants as well as animals are made up of cells. And what did Virchow say? He said that new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Let's compile the cell theory statements. So, first statement is all organisms are made up of cells. Okay, then the next statement is cell is the structural and functional unit of life. And the third statement is new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Means new cells are coming from already existing cells. I hope it is clear. Now next topic, cells are small. So why are cells small? Cells are small because cells have greater surface area is to volume ratio. Smaller cells have greater surface area is to volume ratio. And there is easy transport of gases, food and waste material. Then the next point is they are efficient for communication. Efficient communication. Efficient communication between cells. Okay, now let's revise the important examples. So smallest cells were bacteria, and that bacteria is mycoplasma, but here you just need to remember that bacteria are the smallest cell. Its size is 0.3 to 5 micrometer. Okay, then human red blood cells are 7 micrometer. Then longest cell are nerve cell, which is also known as neuron, and the largest cell are ostrich egg. I hope you are recalling the concepts. Okay, topic which we are revising is cells how numerous. Okay, just remember this rule that larger an organism means more number of cells. More number of cells in its body. Okay, now in unicellular organism number of cells are 1. An example is what? Example of this is amoeba, okay, and bacteria. Then few cells, they have 100 to 1000 cells, okay, and example is spirogyra, okay, and volvox. Then multicellular they have cells in millions and billions. Okay, an example are human beings and mango tree. These examples are mentioned in your books. Okay, now let's revise the last topic, cell shape and function. So epithelial cell has shape flat and rectangular. Then red blood cells are circular and biconcave. White blood cells, they are irregular or amoeboid in shape. Okay, then cartilage are rounded, connective tissue is branched, nerve cells are long and branched. Then striated muscles, they are long and cylindrical. Then smooth muscles are spindle shaped. Then bone cells are branched. Plant cells are rectangular. Guard cells are bean shaped. Then chlamydomonas they are oval and they have two flagella. Then amoeba cells these cells are irregular. Okay, now we are going to study about their functions. Let's revise. Epithelial cell, their function is protection. Red blood cells, they transport or carry oxygen. Then white blood cells, they fight germs. Then cartilage, they provide support and elasticity. Then connective tissue, their function is to support body parts. Or connect body parts. Okay, then nerve cell, they conduct impulse. Then striated muscles, they do what? They help in movement. Then smooth muscles, they move substances. Then bone cells, they support the body. Plant cell, they also provide protection to the plant. Okay, then both protection and support also. Okay, then guard cell, they open and close stomata. Then chlamydomonas cells, they do what? They help in swimming. Then amoeba, they help in movement and feeding. I hope these concepts are more clearer. Okay, I have revised all the topics which we covered in the last lecture. Okay, let's study our topic, structure of a cell. So if I ask this question, what things are needed to run a school? Probably you will say boundary walls, gate, classroom, principal office, teachers, money. All these things are needed to run a school. So you may in a similar way consider a cell as a school, okay, because it has different parts and each part has a special job. Like in a school, teachers, principals, they have different job. Similarly, a cell also has different parts which have a special job. So here we are going to study the different parts that are present in a cell. We will study about these parts in detail in the further lectures. Okay, so here you just need to have a look at these parts. Here we are just giving a summary. Okay, so first is cell membrane. You may consider cell membrane as a school gate. So what is the function of a school gate? School gates, it keeps a check on the entry and exit. Okay, so in the similar way, the function of cell membrane is to control entry and exit. Okay, next is cytoplasm. So you may consider cytoplasm as a school campus. So in school campus, what happens? We do different kinds of activities. We play. Okay, our assembly takes place in a school campus. So similarly, this cytoplasm is a site of activities. Okay, then nucleus. So you may consider nucleus as a principal. So who is the principal? Principal is the head of our school. Similarly, this nucleus is the head of our cell. So it controls the cell. Okay. Then next is cell wall. So cell wall is boundary wall. So boundary wall protects our school. Similarly, cell wall helps in protection and it gives shape to the cell. Okay. Then next is vacuole. So you may consider vacuole as a storeroom. In a storeroom, we store whatever materials that are unused or not in use. Okay. So this vacuole is used as a storage for cell. Then chloroplast. You may consider chloroplast as a kitchen. In kitchen we make food. Similarly, because due to this chloroplast, plants are able to prepare their own food. The function of chloroplast is to make food. Then next is mitochondria. You may consider mitochondria as money, because money is obviously needed to run a school. So this mitochondria, it produces energy, ATP, to run the cell. Okay. Then next is endoplasmic reticulum. You may consider endoplasmic reticulum as roads. So roads are used in transportation. Similarly, endoplasmic reticulum is used to transport materials. Then comes Golgi body. You may consider Golgi body as a post office. So what is the function of post office? In post office, materials are or our letters are collected, and from there the letters are distributed at their correct location. So similarly, the function of Golgi body is packaging and distribution of materials. Okay. Then next is ribosomes. So ribosomes act as a protein factory. So what is their function? Their function is to make proteins. Then next is lysosomes. So lysosomes, you may consider lysosomes as a cleaning staff or dustbin. In dustbin, we throw our waste material daily. So the function of lysosomes is to digest waste. So next is centromere. So you may consider centromere as a construction manager. Construction manager, he divides the work. Okay. So the function of centromere is to help in cell division. I hope it is clear now. Let's note this point that a general cell consists of three essential parts, which are cell membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm. This means that all the cells have cell membrane, nucleus and cytoplasm. Now let's understand this term cell organelle. So you may consider these cell organelles as little organs. Suppose, see, our body has different organs like lungs, stomach, and they have a definite shape and a function. Similarly, a cell has different parts which are present within a cell, and they have a proper function and a shape, and they have a fixed structure also. So you may consider them as little organs which are present inside a cell and have a definite shape, structure and function. Now we are going to study the diagram of plant and animal cell and the structures which are common to both and structures which are only present in plant cells. So this is a plant cell diagram and this is an animal cell diagram. Let's start. So the outer boundary is the cell wall. Okay, outer boundary is the cell wall. Then inner to cell wall we have plasma membrane or cell membrane. Then this whole area, okay, where different organelles are present is known as cytoplasm. Okay, and these are the ribosomes which were known as protein factories, and they are found freely. You can see these are found freely or they are attached with endoplasmic reticulum. If they are present on endoplasmic reticulum, they are known as rough endoplasmic reticulum, and if they are absent, they are known as smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, then this is the principal, means nucleus of a cell. This nucleus is the head of a cell. Then this is the endoplasmic reticulum. We have discussed rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This is the vacuole. Okay, it acts as a storage organelle. Okay, then this is the chloroplast where food was being prepared by plants. Okay, and this is the Golgi body. This part is Golgi body where packaging was happening. Okay, so this plant cell is rectangular in shape. Okay, and note this point that plant have cell wall, chloroplast and large vacuole which are specifically only present in case of plant cell. I hope it is clear. Now animal cell. So animal cell do not have a cell wall. Okay, they only have cell or plasma membrane. This is the endoplasmic reticulum, and here ribosomes are attached. Ribosomes may be found freely also. Okay, then this is the nucleus, this is the Golgi body, and this lysosome is specific to animals only. Okay, we'll talk about lysosomes in the upcoming lectures. Okay, then this is the centromere which was responsible for cell division. So this is the animal cell. Okay, now note this point that animal cell have centrosomes and lysosomes. I hope now these things are clear to everyone. Let's take up the questions. Okay, the shape of a cell is mainly related to its color, function, size and weight. The correct option is function. Which of the following supports the cell theory? Okay, cells arise spontaneously. New cells arise from pre-existing cells. Cells are not needed for life. Animals are not made of cells. Which is the correct option? Which supports the cell theory? The option B is correct. New cells arise from pre-existing cells. Okay. Which pair is correctly matched? Red blood cells fight germs? No. A WBC carry oxygen? No. Neurons carry messages? Yes, that's correct. Guard cell digestion? No. So option C is correct. As the size of an organism increases, the number of cells generally decreases? No. Remains same? No. Increases? Yes. Becomes zero? No. So option C is correct. Human beings are unicellular? No. Few-celled? No. Multicellular? Yes. Cell colonies? No. Amoeba is a multicellular organism? No. Unicellular organism, yes. Tissue, organ, no. So option B is correct. The largest known cell is, okay, which is the largest known cell? Egg, human egg, no. Ostrich egg, yes. Amoeba, no. Neuron, no. New cells arise from pre-existing cell was proposed by, who proposed this statement? Hooke, no. Sheldon, no. Swan, no. Virchow, yes. Rudolf Virchow, he gave the statement that new cells arise from pre-existing cell. Now I hope that these topics are more clearer. Okay. Let's end this lecture with this beautiful quote. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. So, this quote means that your past does not decide your future. Bad things may have happened to you. You may have failed an exam. Someone may have hurt your feelings. You may have faced difficulties. But these events do not define who you are. But what matters is what you learn from them, how you respond to them, what kind of person you choose to become. So, keep believing in yourself and God and never stop moving forward. Take care and thank you so much.